Hey guys, in today's episode, we're doing our preseason ranking in our local league, and we might give a few of our guys some high grades or some low grades. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Coach and Commish podcast. No, not Adam Gase, and definitely not Roger Goodell. It's Chris and Sean breaking down fantasy football for the everyday man.
Welcome back. You're here with the Coach and Commish. I'm Chris. Sean, am I right? And we're starting off our old normal podcast here.
Yeah.
Week 1 starting tomorrow night.
Welcome in any of those that might be joining from our tutorials we've done. Appreciate you guys sticking around for those, even if you're, longtime fantasy football fans. But yeah, this is our traditional, what we do is we talk about our league. So if you enjoy hearing about other people's struggles and successes in fantasy football, that's what we do. We talk trash to our league mostly. So.
And that's what fantasy football is all about, right?
The camaraderie,
but really we want to be able to get the last word in on every other league mate that we play against. So putting together, we just finished up an awesome draft, and if you don't do like a live draft party, we went old school. We put the stickers on the board.
Yeah, I was glad. We didn't know if we were going to do the whole draft that way. But
we went the whole way.
Yep.
All the rounds. We thought about stopping at 4. We're like, we know it's taking longer, but there was some suspense. I mean, guys were looking at what color sheet the guy was pulling up, messing each other's draft strategy up, and it was great. And there were some obvious ones we loved. I mean, immediately after the draft night. But going over this, it took us a day or two to think about our rankings here.
Quite a few ultimate draft kits were open. I saw plenty of my guys go off the board really quickly for the fantasy footballers, but it's what happens when a great podcast is out there and everybody listens to it.
Yeah, so let's go right into our rankings here. We're gonna start.
He's from Boston.
We're gonna start from the top. Who we think is gonna be number 1 going into the season?
No, I'm gonna switch it up on you, Chris.
We're gonna go all the way down.
Yeah, we gotta build the suspense to that.
Oh man, I gotta talk about myself last. You said? No, I'm just kidding. I wish. All right, so let's start from the bottom.
All right,
number 12.
I'll go ahead and start here. I'm really sorry to do this to you. I know you all invited us to your house for the game, but Matt, I've got you down at number 12. Mostly, I have this position because of the keeper decision you made and the first actual pick you made. So kind of the way I went through it and I did these was the most important thing to me was your first 4 players. Like that to me is what's going to determine how you do during the season. Mm-hmm. And then the bench kind of comes secondary. But those first 4 players to me are just the most important you have to hit on. And Davante Adams and Aaron Jones, I loved those as keepers. I just think you could have kept Fournette at the 3rd and then drafted Davante Adams in the 1st. And then you would have been much better set up. Cam Akers, to me, I think you could have gotten him probably in the 5th round. I think that guy was going to fall. People are scared to death of Cam Akers, mainly that guy who decided not to keep him. So that's where I really saw a problem. I'm not a huge Michael Thomas fan. Amari Cooper, these wide receivers scare me. They were amazing like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, but right now, the situations that they're in, I'm a little scared off of that. Devin Singletary, not an awesome option at running back. But, if Cam Akers works out, then you're going to prove us all very wrong. But I don't know, Chris, did you have any thoughts on Matt's team?
If you draft Akers and in the 3rd round, you're going to have to wait probably 5-6 weeks to see who he truly is. Coming off the injury, yes, we saw him last year in the postseason, but that's where it's going to make or break. You can't tilt. You can't be throwing a lot of trade offers. If you're picking Akers here in the 3rd, you did your homework somehow to see that this is going to work out moving on toward the end here, like midway through the season, giving you a playoff push. I loved Adams. I love Jones, like you said. And getting Herbert, 2nd best QB, 5th round, not too bad. But, yes, the keeper strategy, you were going to get Davante with the 3rd pick. And you could have kept yourself a solid running back to go alongside with Jones. I agree with Sean there. A little iffy. Cam at the 3rd just doesn't, and there's a reason why I let him go. That 3rd round grade was way too high for me.
Yeah, and I will preface this with I think overall we have a pretty balanced league. I won't say that there's a crazy division here. So if you're in the bottom, I don't think you're that far from making the playoffs or anything.
Yeah, and we did our notes separately, and we both said the same thing coming in here. Like the draft seemed really tight, as in there wasn't too many head scratchers, but you have to put them 1 through 12. We can't say we're all tied for first.
All right, why don't you move on and deliver the bad news to the lesser shown rock over there?
Lesser shown rock. So first, Mike, you owe Sean a Christmas card to letting you get Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, I mean, you might have been 12 if I didn't save you there.
But I still find it tough keeping Jacobs even at a 4th-round grade with some of the guys you could have picked up around him and then receivers. I feel like.
What was your thought on Evans over Tyreek there?
Edmonds over Tyreek,
or Evans, Mike Evans over Tyreek Hill.
I feel that it could be somewhat closer. Evans is going to be a touchdown machine here. I think Tyreek will rack up more catches. Evans helps out that Godwin's still coming back, so Evans could be a solid pickup later. I didn't like the receiver depth after that.
Yeah, I don't mind the guys you picked. So like an Allen Robinson, that was a great pick, I think. Then you started to reach, I felt like. Lazard was somebody I don't think you need to take in the 6th. You definitely could have let him pass that turn and taken him in the 7th. Robert Woods, Tyler Lockett, George Pickens. These are all guys I think you took. Now, when you're close to the turn like that, you do have to take a little bit ahead if you believe in them, but they're not guys that I'm considerably high on. So I think although you invested early in wide receiver, I think you might be a little underwhelmed with what you get. And then, I mean, your best, for me, getting Rodgers in the 11th is the savior of this team. Like, the fact that you were able to wait till the last person to take a quarterback and you took Aaron Rodgers, that's pretty fantastic. So, maybe he'll help carry this team. But, yeah, I just didn't love a few of how early you reached for some of them wide receivers.
Yeah, you're hoping the Lazard works out, to be honest, to be a wide receiver 1. So that's 12 and 11, 10. I can't talk about myself.
Yeah, let's talk about Chris here. I'm sure he loves being at 10, but I mean, based on last year, it's you have to work your way back up there. And
you do.
You although you have the 3 rings, one with an asterisk, you sucked it up last year, so I'm gonna make you earn it this year. Kind of surprised us all with a CeeDee Lamb pick there. I really didn't see that one coming. I thought that a James Conner was locked in there, and then maybe you'd take your wide receiver on the way back. And probably in hindsight, you probably wish you maybe done that because then you could have had a James Conner and a Tyreek Hill because I know you were considering him over ETN. I'm not the biggest ETN fan. That's kind of why I placed you here. Again, I said those 4-pack. So sitting there with a 4-pack of Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb, that may be the best, wide receiver combo of us all. But your running backs really suffered. You got some guys with upside in, some serious carry counts here for Dameon Pierce, Chase Edmonds. It's a big unknown as to what that will actually shake out to in that backfield. And then obviously Travis Etienne, there's still James Robinson is somehow healthy and actually going to play. So that's where it falls apart for me. And I'm somebody who is, running back is, I think, one of the hardest positions to figure out in the middle of the year. So that's why it's a scary lineup for me. Yeah,
I made the decision to go Lamb instead of Connor. We talked about it before. I kept telling myself I'm going to go Connor. I stayed close to my tiers. Seeing that CD was there, I was like, I'm going to go with that. I told you before we got on air that I was even looking at Tyreek over ETN there and completely kicking running backs further down. Mm-hmm. So I agree with the assessment here. This is all cross your finger upside running backs, and I feel like the receivers will carry me some way. But if I can't get an answer, at least one of them to answer solid at running back, I might be back at the bottom again.
I mean, just there's no sure thing at running back here for you. I mean, you have Travis Etienne. You don't know what that workload is. You don't know what the workload is for Edmonds on a new team. A rookie in Dameon Pierce, James Cook, obviously a wild card. So that's why I just would want some type of stable factor there.
Yeah.
Even taking like a, CEH or a, as gross as it sounds, like a Gibson. I mean, he's assured a bunch of work now with that. So I guess that's Dameon Pierce, but as a rookie, that's still a little scary.
That's tough. And then guys who are listening outside of our league, our keepers are primarily running backs. So Connor was the next best available behind the early guys like Barkley, Cook, Fournette.
That is a good disclaimer to put out here. Maybe we'll put up a link to our draft board if you want to check it out. But there's a lot of keepers in here to where it doesn't make sense how some of these picks turned out. So.
Yeah, so when we're talking about like you should have gone here except thinking tier here, there's a reason. Every league is unique, and this is where it hurts because this is unique to us. All right, so outside of me there in the single digits, he sat down the whole draft.
I know, no standing.
When he had a bathroom break.
He might have been up in the top 5 if he had
if he was standing.
Yeah.
But Andy, hey, man, you're rising up the rankings.
Yeah.
I looked at it here First off, one of the best picks there was Saquon and Connor, I think, going back. Like, you had to take Saquon there in the first, one of the best available running backs there. There's a lot of upside if he can return to 80, 90% of what he was. And then, I regret a little passing up on Steady Eddie of James Conner getting touchdowns and end zone work. I like that as a setting the tone for the rest of his draft.
And then the crazy upside with Pitts, I think that's awesome. A.J. Brown in the fourth.
Both keepers.
Not crazy big on A.J. Brown or Pitts, but getting them in the third and fourth, you can't complain with that. Judy, there's the homer pick that we all thought might happen. I think that's a little earlier than I would have taken him.
Judy or Cooks there?
Yeah, see, that's why I wouldn't have Brandon Cooks. But, I mean, if you really think that he can beat out Sutton for that number one spot, then I don't mind you taking that chance. Godwin, I loved that pick. And then, of course, the worst pick of the draft that I was very angry with, Russell Wilson. I mean, I should have seen it coming. The Denver Bronco fan is not going to let me get at value Russell Wilson. So I did not enjoy that and bumped you down a few spots for that. No, just kidding.
Personal grudge on that ranking.
All right, I'll move on now to the Reverend. Reverend David Kalana. He actually was pretty good in draft, I thought. I was sitting next to him. Usually he seems to be kind of stressing it, but since he did about 450 mock drafts, I think he was prepared for what was happening. He didn't seem like he loved his draft, but I mean, that's just kind of how he leaves them often, I feel like. I actually really like his team. It's just kind of it ended up being in the middle there because I don't see a crazy difference maker on his team. And that was just a factor of not being able to even have a shot at those players because his keepers were Stephon Diggs and Ezekiel Elliott. I think Diggs is probably his best chance at that difference maker, but the boom weeks aren't, always there for him. So having that 4-pack, he honestly has one of the safest 4-packs in my opinion. One of my favorites, which is Leonard Fournette, Stephon Diggs, Zeke Elliott, and then A.J. Brown. A.J. Dillon, sorry. Taking A.J. Dillon in the fourth there, bold move, but it's possible you would have had to take him there because I was considering him in the fifth, but fourth round, if you believe in that guy, then, yeah, go get him. And there'll be more targets there now. He doesn't seem like he profiles as that receiving back, but they're going to have to throw to the backs, even if it's not A.J. I mean, even if it's A.J. Dillon on the field and not Aaron Jones, I still think Rodgers will target the running backs. So, love Cooks as your wide receiver 2. Another pick that you stole from me. Those were kind of the two guys I was hoping would fall to me, and you took both of them in the fifth round. And then Kyler Murray, I know you aren't the biggest fan after dealing with him for the last 2 years, but the upside's there, and to get him after Jalen Hurts, I think, is just a steal. So,
yeah, he started tilting. But he started getting frustrated after the Cooks pick. Because then things were being sniped from him. Didn't work. He was mad at me about the Murray pick. Like, I forced his hand there. But I agree with you. I think the top 6 picks are legit. I would love that. Those are guys you can keep all season with barring injury. Those are guys I'm not having to worry about.
Wasn't a big fan of the shots he took late at wide receiver. Tyler Boyd, Jarvis Landry. I just see so little upside there. I might have tried to go for more of like a Wan'Dale Robinson, even a Romeo Doubs, which sounds, like just a shot in the dark. But when you're past this 10th round, I just think taking those high upside shots are a little better than taking these safe guys that, we know they're going to get 5 to 10 points a week. So that's, I wasn't too much of a fan of that. But besides that, loved his draft, a very fantasy footballer's draft.
Love the Reverend. Right after David, we got Phil. Phil, man, you were hilarious in the draft there. Seeing you sweat when people were sniping. You did some personal work there, taking some guys just to make them mad. What do you think of his picks, his draft there, Sean?
So I was, Keenan Allen. That's a fine pick to get, his second wide receiver shirt up. Don't love him as a wide receiver 1, but awesome as a wide receiver 2. We'll talk later about the Cordell Patterson pick and what I thought of that. Gibson, that's one that, if you had told me this 2 weeks ago, I would have thought that was an awful pick. Now it's like, you might have got some value there. Just we don't know what that is. There's another report that came out today. We're going to give him the football in any way possible. So I like Christian Kirk. Tom Brady, he was kind of the last quarterback that I wanted, and you took ahead of me, which kind of sucked. I like Ayuk as an upside guy. The double tight end, I mean, it baffles me, but I'm not going to question Phil's drafting because he always ends up with a championship caliber team every year. And again, just another reminder for this, how I'm ranking these are based on the rosters and not the actual managers and who's been able to, overcome some of this stuff. So don't let it be a reflection on how I think you're going to manage this team, because this isn't really how I think they'll end up. It's just if I, put these into a simulator, I think that, this is what would win the championship with computer drafting or computer managing these teams. So, I think Phil at number 7 there is fair enough.
Yeah, and double tight end, we did a new thing. So listeners outside of our league, we added a third receiver spot that's technically a W/T.
Yeah.
So you can start 2 tight ends even outside of the flex there. So you can start more. So going Freiermuth and Kmet late, head scratcher, but it was something that he was just, I'm going to try this strategy out. And if not, one of them, both of them are trade offers. I think guys like David, who's weak at tight end right now, might go knock on Phil's door.
All right, and then next we have Daniel Turtle. I think he made it to the championship last year.
Fan favorite.
Yeah, definitely a fan favorite. Really liked the beginning of his draft here. Just the first 5 picks there. Eckler, Deebo Samuel, David Montgomery. That value didn't turn out to be as amazing as we had hoped. T. Higgins in the 4th, absolute steal there.
Yeah.
And then Patrick Mahomes. He was a guy that I really wanted to come back to me after that turn, and you took. So. The Miles Sanders and Juju ones, those are risky picks. They could turn out to be fantastic, but the risk is definitely there. Nice to follow it up with a Hunter Renfrow. Feels like a safe volume guy. Traylon Burks, we'll see. You had to take him there in the 9th because people were going to try to get the keeper upside. That's why these rookies, that's another reason why, like with David's Landry and Boyd, I just don't think there's any keeper value next year, whereas if you took, you took Alec Pierce in the 13th round.
Mm-hmm.
If he turns out to be something, you're going to get a crazy discount on him for your keeper next year. So, anything else on Turtle?
No, the only one word popped in my head as I watched him draft and looking at it afterwards: value. He took value at each round, right around the turn. Not easy being between Sean and Tim in a draft. It's not. I've been there once before a few years ago. Never fun. And he did great finding value every round.
All right. Well, speaking of Tim, why don't you go ahead and talk to us about Tim, who made the top 5?
All right. Well, Tim, you're in the top 5 here. And one thing that came to my mind is that you might have an issue with slimness at running back. Could probably be the only thing that would make me not like your team. Keeping Najee and Kelsey as your top 2 picks. Kelsey should be a tight end 1 because there's no targets in Kansas City. And Najee's a great running back there at the back end. A Kareem Hunt, Damian Harris, who's going to be that RB2. But DeAndre Hopkins in the 8th round, coming back after a 6-game suspension, is going to make your team that much stronger. Cortland Sutton, Mike Williams back-to-back, love it. Coming for receiving targets, and when you're really at the turn, that was great. What do you think? I think his 4-pack could be pretty good.
I really loved the beginning of the draft. Again, obviously it's easy to say that the players are better at the beginning, but the Lamar Jackson one, another one that hurt me, but I think it was good for your team. Unless you liked Jalen Hurts better or Trey Lance, I think you probably should have waited on Lamar Jackson, taking yourself a Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Elijah Mitchell, kind of get that running back room a little more secured, and I think Trey Lance would have been there for you in the 8th if we'd let the quarterback slip a little bit. Or the 7th, sorry. Yeah, so I didn't. That's maybe one of the only things I would change. The Damian Harris one kind of surprised me. He was a big Stevenson guy. I do think Harris probably deserves to be drafted before. But again, that's one where if you really believe in the other guy, it's going to suck to watch Morgan, have success with the guy that you believed in more than the guy you drafted. So Julio, another pick, I really didn't understand that one. I thought. I guess he was looking for more stability with Hopkins, but I think you could have gotten it from players like Devontae Parker or Chase Claypool. I think is who you should have taken, but obviously you don't like that guy on the Steelers.
No, but he's top 3 receiver according to himself. All right, so that's cracking into our top 5. Now we're looking final 4. I've got to talk about him, and it's Sean coming at 4. And
I wonder who made this list. No.
Yeah. It's okay. I agree with most of there. I wasn't going to try to argue. I felt like everything was good. I agreed with myself at 10. So I'll agree with you at 4. The draft will be defined for me between the Mixon and Kamara trade.
Okay.
Now, not saying you got to win the trade. You can't lose it.
Okay.
As in, like, Kamara's
the top 5 and Mixon just falls to the 15th.
That's what – because outside of that, your 4-pack would be phenomenal either way if you kept Kamara here or, if you were going up Mixon. I don't have a hard time with that at all.
I want to hear your thoughts on my DJ Moore, Deontay Johnson receivers because that's where I knew I was going to have to go after. Probably not best case scenario I could have gotten. I had dreams and hopes that maybe a Higgins, Sutton, or Williams would fall down to that 4th position. But as much as I don't like a Deontay Johnson, he's not a player I was targeting. The value in the 5th round was, I just thought, too good to pass up. So I'm curious, what do you think of those 2 receivers? Will they get me by with my running backs and tight end?
DJ Moore will get you by because Baker Mayfield can at least get the ball to him.
That's the hope in the end zone.
Deontay Johnson, I'm not a fan of. I just think we don't know how that receiver depth chart's going to pan out. Mm-hmm. So I would have punted on him and even come back around and grab a Juju or a Christian Kirk, knowing like top dog type of guys.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I would have different. But if you didn't take Deontay there, what would you go for? A Kareem Hunt or Mahomes early? But you didn't think at value the quarterbacks were going to start running right there.
I didn't think that they would both take a quarterback. I liked both. That's one of those, you play the game and you lose. I would thought that Mahomes or Jackson would make it back, and they both took a quarterback there. So you just got to know with 4 picks, that's the chance you take.
I like your 10th round pick a lot because he's a huge boom guy. Because in New York, no one's the guy. So Wan'Dale Robinson, late. I mean, when you look at the back
Wan'Dale and Rondale.
When you look back in the draft, the bench guys, you want to look for great hope.
Yeah.
You're looking for guys who could be a boom player, and I think he's a great boom player. But your top 3 picks, top 4, I like your top 4. Deontay is where I might be like, I don't get it. CEH in the 6th round, great value.
Yep. All right. And then I'm going to move on to number 3, which is Joe. And Joe, I think you did what you had to, which was take the guys you wanted. You knew that at that turn you were going to have to make some reaches. You want to talk about a footballers team, this is it. There's a lot of guys in here that the footballers like. So
yeah.
Obviously getting Christian McCaffrey at the 101, that's a no-brainer most drafts. Jonathan Taylor wasn't available, obviously. And then keeping Josh Allen at the 2nd round, you could look at that as your 3rd round because you were on the turn there. So I don't hate it if you want to go get that difference maker. The only thing that makes it look a little worse is the fact that we did wait so long on these quarterbacks. So, looking at the 2-12 compared to the 5-3 for Justin Herbert, that doesn't look so good. Like, I would rather have Herbert at 5-3. I don't think there's that crazy a difference. But I agree with the Pittman pick as much as I think it's a reach, and I didn't think he would go that early. Love that guy.
I love him too.
So, starting with this is what it comes down to for Joe. If McCaffrey stays healthy and is McCaffrey, then I think he has the potential to have the best team in the league because he has that running back. And then Dobbins, if Dobbins turns out, that's unbelievable to have those 2 and then this amazing wide receiver core of Pittman, Amon-Ra, Gabe Davis, Darnell Mooney. Like you're stable there. Like that will carry you through the season.
Yeah, I looked at it. I saw risk reward at the running back position. They both come back to close to form. Joe, you're back in the title game, and I probably won't be there to asterisk steal the ring from you. Okay? Because I agree. I love the receivers. Allen's going to be phenomenal, so that value is not good. But McCaffrey and Dobbins need to stay injury-free, and that they just stay injury-free. Not talking about like they need to elevate the game. They stay injury-free. This is a tough man to play week to week.
All right, and then I know you haven't heard your name yet, Morgan, but I didn't think. Did you think you'd be this high? We all know who the number 1 was going to be, just because I feel like we all talked about it all draft, the amazing values you were getting. But first, let's start with Morgan. I have you here at number 2. I really liked your draft, man. I think the fact that you were able to get a Breece Hall there was a steal in that late 3rd round. I did not think he would be available there for you. So I know it was a tough decision for you to make. You're not the highest on him, but I'm telling you, come mid-season, late season, that is going to be, consideration for top 10 running back that you got to steal there. So having Derrick Henry, his keepers that start off are just unbelievable. I mean, having probably the number one wide receiver / running back. Like those easily could finish as number one in their position as Derrick Henry and Jamar Chase. Like that. I mean, the boom ability of those players too. That's why I loved you following it up with Waddle. He didn't seem too happy with the Waddle pick, but I think it's a great compliment to Jamar Chase.
I have a theory. Roll my notes. Morgan is now a Dolphins fan.
Oh, he is.
Because he picked Waddle over Hollywood. That is a Cardinal.
Yeah.
That, to me, those are like almost side by side. He went Waddle, and I like the upside of Waddle. I'm mad that Waddle didn't make it to me in the fourth. Mm-hmm. But I do love that 4-pack there. And you're right. Derrick Henry was going to be RB1 if he didn't get hurt last year.
Yep, absolutely.
And Jamar Chase, it's a toss-up with really him, Kupp, Jefferson.
Yep.
Even if he finishes third, it's going to be a fraction of points.
Yeah, the pick that I don't really like is the Waller pick, and that's just because I think the fact that, we'll talk about later, the value on Dalton Schultz was so late that I don't see a huge difference between the two of them. Devontae Adams, to me, does really change the upside of Waller. I think he's more going to be that volume guy to where you're going to be getting that consistent 10 points, which if that's what you wanted and you didn't want to worry about tight end, as long as he gets his contract figured out, I think it's a fine pick.
I think that Waller pick kind of showed that the indecisiveness on draft night. He didn't like the value of the other guys around him, and he did not want to go quarterback early.
Yeah.
He wanted to go Burrow for the stack, so he wasn't going to reach that. He just I'll just take the next top tight end.
Love the stack with Burrow. I mean, that was a great one. I was hoping he would make it. Him or Brady would make it back to me, and they didn't. So great pick there.
Yep. And last but not least, at the top is Leroyce.
Dinner rolls.
Sean, I'm going to punt it to you. I love your analysis right here. We were talking about it earlier, but I'm going to let you break it down. I'll add in my part. What do you think about Leroyce?
Well, I mean, coming into it, Morgan had the balanced, studs, but having Alvin Kamara and Jonathan Taylor at running back, I mean, that's impossible to beat on a week-to-week basis there. And then Tyreek falling. I mean, you want to talk about a potential upside wide receiver 1 to fall to you in the third. I mean, that's the dream scenario right there. So getting a Tyreek Hill that late, that I think really bolstered this team to be able to have him. Dalton Schultz is my probably next favorite pick. I mean, the 8-6.
That is like my favorite pick there.
It's unbelievable value for, a guy who I think has a chance to challenge, George Kittle. And if Pitts doesn't have the touchdowns, I think that he can be in that tier with those guys. So to get him in the 8th round, pick up all that value in between as much as I don't really like McLaurin and Metcalf, I think they're fine picks there. Now, the head scratcher for me was taking Jalen Hurts over Kyler Murray. That one could hurt you. I'm not the biggest Hurts fan, so I definitely would have taken a Kyler Murray in that position. But if you really liked Hurts and you didn't want to deal with the attitude and immaturity of Mr. Murray, then I get it.
Yeah, I agree with the running backs there. I fumbled it. I should have taken Hill and went listen to Tim James in my head and gone hero RB. But for you to come back and just, pick to pick, it's phenomenal. I know McLaurin's values dropped because Carson Wentz is at quarterback. McLaurin's still a great receiver. DK Metcalf's value drops because it's no longer Russell Wilson. He's still going to get value there because he's a great receiver.
Yeah.
So at a 4th and 5th round with guys that could be potential wide receiver 1s, that's a great way to pack up with, I think, the best tandem of running back with Taylor and Kamara.
Yeah, amazing. Great draft.
And Sean said earlier, there isn't a huge division when we were ranking these guys. There wasn't like one's like, oh, he just screwed the pooch. It was really tight this year. The draft felt really, really fun because you didn't feel like someone was just completely ruining everyone's strategy because they're drafting terribly.
All right, and then we're going to do a couple of questions here to kind of further break down these teams and kind of make some projections. I think this will be fun talking points for the league, but we're going to talk about what manager will rank their way higher. So somebody who kind of was a little bit more down in the bottom and has a chance to, make a push in the playoffs just based on their managing skills. And I'm going to go with Phil. Every year, I'm not a fan of his draft, yet he somehow makes his way close to the championship or in it. I'm not sure he'll win it because he can't seem to do that one, but I do think that he will manage his way into the playoffs, and right now I think we've got him 7th, which is just outside. So I think he's easily a playoff team with the way he manages.
Yeah, I'm looking at the guy at number 8, the Reverend David Kalana. he just seems to play the waivers really well. He doesn't trade often, but he is very meticulous on when he does pull the trigger on a trade. And there's a few positions after it works out the first few weeks, he'll know where he needs to strengthen up, and he just always finds himself right there in playoff contention. I think he will again this year.
All right, and then what is a team that is ranked high but could tumble down? I'll let you go ahead and kick this one off.
I think it's Tim James. The running back depth can come back to hurt him.
I think Kelsey's another scary point. If he does hit that age wall and has to struggle, I think that could hurt. I think it'll be covered up this year by the fact that he's necessary for that offense without Tyreek. But that definitely could be a scary option there. The guy that I have that could tumble is Joe, and I kind of talked about it earlier with his high-risk running backs there. With if McCaffrey can stay healthy, I'll be very wrong, but if McCaffrey gets hurt, then this team is going to be in a lot of trouble with a J.K. Dobbins who's on the fence of whether he'll even be anything that he was with his ACL. So, yeah, that's who I have fallen down potentially. Then we're going to hit a steal of the draft and then maybe a confusing pick in the draft. So I'll start with my steal of the draft. I talked about it earlier, Dalton Schultz at 8.6. There's not a lot else that I can say with that. I just think that taking, I thought he would be a 5th or 4th or 6th round pick, and to get him in the middle of the 8th is just...
He was a 5th round pick. Remember, I walked up until David reminded me I have CD because that's how good Schultz is. He was worth a 5th round pick, and I was like, I
think that Dunkin' Donuts gift card needs to go to David for reminding Chris that he did not need to take Dalton Schultz. I did not.
But I'm going to stay. The steal, this section is all Leroy's. I love Tyreek at 3.7.
Yeah. Amazing value there.
Confusing pick. I'll go here. Cam Akers at 3.3. We talked about it earlier, Matt. He is my guy, but the value of a 3rd round is the reason why I let him go.
Yeah.
I couldn't keep him at the 3rd round. And, I knew you love ETN. No, not quite sure why you didn't take him before me.
That one baffled me. I was very shocked at that. And then the other one was Phil's Patterson pick. It's one to me he's not really an exciting player that you are excited to draft. But then to take him way above his ADP. I mean, we had to look way down the board to find where this guy was. When you could have taken, I thought an AJ Dillon was a smash pick over Patterson. So that one surprised me, but like I said, I've learned not to doubt Phil's drafting, so maybe he proves me wrong.
And people keep forgetting they look at A.J. Dillon as like the backup running back. But he's got Kareem Hunt value in just a different way. He's not the pass-catching back. He's a touchdown back. He's a short yardage guy. He'll get a lot of work.
All right, and then because we want to piss some people off and make some people really happy,
it's what we do best.
We're gonna do a very inflammatory last segment here. Although I see you didn't go very... You got to change yours, Chris.
Okay.
Put in a different one.
All right.
That's cheating.
I'll pick one.
So we're doing who wins the championship, and he just picked Leroy's, who was our number
one.
Did
a roll. I love it. I just loved it. Okay, I'll choose someone else.
You got to choose someone else.
You go with someone while
I want to finish with mine, so
all right.
I'll just stall. You ready?
I'm ready.
Go for it.
I think Joe.
Okay.
Joe's going to come back.
McCaffrey and
Dobbins McCaffrey are going to make his team look... I mean, he can go undefeated with those guys. If those two can make it... And like I said, just be healthy. He can go undefeated, in my opinion.
All right. Well, I don't think this guy's going to go undefeated, but I do think that he has, as I talked about, 2 position-winning players, and that's Morgan with the Derrick Henry, Jamar Chase. You stuck with it, my man. All offseason, you wanted to get rid of your Derrick Henry. You weren't so sure on Jamar Chase, but I'm telling you, these guys are going to win you this championship this year. That's what I believe, even though this is ridiculous that we're calling the champion right now.
Handle Morgan winning?
Probably not. So it may be like he wins the league and then the league votes him out for a year just to cool things down until he comes back. But, yeah, I don't know. I think that could be a rough champion to deal with, but... I don't know. It'd be fun.
I would look forward to his acceptance speech.
Can you imagine I mean, really, Morgan and anybody. I was going to say Morgan and David, but it could have been Morgan and me.
Morgan and you would be just the best. It would be awesome to talk about the week leading to
and I really hope that Joe Mixon is the one that defeats you in the championship, so you can be even more spiced up about my trade with Leroy's.
All right, guys. Well, that's all we have here for our preseason local league ranking. It's a ton of fun. I can't wait to actually get
Take
going.
a screenshot and make sure you tell us at the end of the year how wrong we were on your team, like you always do. I mean, why don't you guys come do this for once?
Yeah, we have to say something. We're not gonna be correct. Trust me, we don't want to be correct with us
in the comments, guys. Actually, even people that aren't in our league, I want you to just take a look in the description. I will have this posted draft board, but I want you guys to pick your champion out of these teams. Who do you think wins the championship this year?
Yeah,
but I think that's all we have. If you could hit that subscribe button for us, we would appreciate it. Give us a like. Stay tuned. We're going to try to do some more tutorial-based stuff. If you want to comment with what type of videos you'd like to see, feel free to do so. And until next time, guys.
Deuces.
Thanks for listening to the Coach and Commish podcast. Don't forget to check us out on Twitter and Instagram at Coach and Commish. And join our Facebook group called Fantasy Football Advice with the Coach and Commish for direct access to weekly waiver wire and start sit advice.